2014 is coming to a close, Christmas is here, and this will be my last video as Todd then, the past Todd. So this will, I guess, now be a time for reflection and a time now to look back at the last 52 weeks and examine how much I've grown. Although I think the only thing that's grown has kind of pretty much been my waist, because this is really tight right now. And to be honest, when I started this project, I meant it to be a little bit of a challenge to myself, to push myself forward in my career, in my health, in my life changes perhaps. Intending this to be a conversation through time in a question-answer type of format, I think I've only come up with more questions than anything. With the end of 2014, I'm realizing that a lot can change in a single year. I've had friends fall in love. I've had friends now get separated. I've had friends give birth to babies. And yet even more, unfortunately, are dealing with their own health struggles. It's been a huge year for some, a defining year for others. I just wasn't any of those. I've got the same job, I've got the same rental suite, and the same complaints, really, than I did a year ago. This has kind of been an exercise in a year-long challenge against the status quo. And the status quo kind of won. And if anything, this little video project has really made me aware of, I guess, how much I complain. And I never really used to complain openly. Why would I do that? There are much bigger things that people should be worrying about. But I guess for so many years now, I've had these little jumble of complaints floating around in my head, and I finally kind of had a chance to turn that faucet on and let that loose. So I really apologize for what ended up being a year of kind of depressed ranting. So as this year wraps up now, and I look forward to a new year answering my questions in a sense, let's have a little bit of our year in review, a little bit of recap of what 2014 was for me. It would totally be cheesy to say my wife, right? But it's true. And particularly this year, there's this image I have of us when we were traveling to Ucluelet, staying at a B&B, and we're on the balcony, and it's peaceful and quiet. And just that image alone makes me smile. My time with her there. I don't anger easily, and the fact that this happened still kind of bothers me, that I was even affected this much by it. There was this one incident at work where we all wore a blue shirt on my team. Coincidentally, magically, wow, we all wore the same color. My colleagues ended up spending about 20 minutes finding the rest of the people on the floor that all wore blue as well, because this was a magical moment and a team building experience, right? This was also a time of work where I was super stressed out and had a lot of deadlines and a lot of pressure to get shit done. So of course my colleagues decided, let's all pose for a group picture. Me being the party pooper, I pointedly said, no, I don't have time for this right now, thanks, bye. So they took it upon themselves to arrange themselves around me, and we all posed for this magical blue shirt picture together, all in the name of team building, right? It shouldn't bother me. It was a nothing event, but it did, and it still does. And it bothers me that it bothers me. Anyways, never mind that. Moving on. Well, I had the pleasure of flying in a B-17 bomber this year, the same type that my grandfather flew in World War II. And it was an amazing experience, being able to fly around in a circle and see the San Francisco Bay Area with my head outside of the cabin. Definitely a highlight for the year. They say money can't buy happiness. I'm pretty much willing to challenge that. So yeah, more money. Despite trying to maintain a tighter travel budget this year, I did manage to get out of the city for a couple trips. Mom treated us to a nice trip down to San Francisco to see a lot of her father's, my grandfather's, bomb group from World War II. And wifey and I did sneak out to Ucluelet for a week on the west coast of Vancouver Island. Love Ucluelet, and the drive there alone is probably worth the trip. Well, you know, for me, I think it's more of a toss-up between, I guess, motivation, maybe initiative, and probably willpower. Yeah, any of those. Now, it was only for one weekend, but I took an interesting introductory course to audio engineering. And this is the first time in many, many years that I paid to learn something. But I'm definitely proud that I did something, anything, that helped my personal growth. There wasn't really anything that I would define as a failure, with the exception that there were some opportunities that were presented that I hesitated on and missed the chance. And also I never went to the gym. I kind of really wanted to this year. I really wanted to make that a personal goal. Yeah, no, not once. Although we didn't travel much, but I think that's where a lot of the budget went to this year. It's not cheap, even for the frugal amount that we spent. But really, when it comes to disposable income, pretty sure most of it went to comic books. Comics and beer. It's weird, but it's my early morning drives around Vancouver. I discovered Pitt Lake this year, and the peace and quiet that was there. And I eagerly await trying to find some road and follow it to the end just to watch the sunrise. Just work on my physical health, really. Going to the gym, eating better, going for walks. That's all. Working through my lunch hour Monday to Friday instead of kind of taking care of myself. In fact, I'm on days off right now, and in between questions 9 and 10 there, I had to answer a phone call from work and a text message. So yeah, there's that. This was the year I focused more on documentary shows and kind of minimized my dramas and sitcoms to a short list of 3 or 4 throughout the week. But definitely Neil Oliver's Coast has been my regular Friday night event. Although her album was released long ago, Wife and I were among 30 people that went to go see Joe Hamilton live in Vancouver. Now, I don't really go to many concerts, and this was, probably because of the size and the crowd, a very intimate, connected experience. I was very excited to go and totally lived up to my expectations. There have been a lot of amazing movies released this past year. Birdman, Interstellar, and so forth, none of which I've seen. But I think maybe because of the time of it and the time I needed it, Secret Life of Walter Mitty actually hit me much more personally than I expected. And it's a movie about taking chances when you can, living the life you're intended, fulfilling your dreams. All things I probably should have done this year, but Walter Mitty got to do it for me. That would have money. I already mentioned money, right? The best thing about being a pathological procrastinator is that I can truly fool myself into believing that it'll all take care of itself tomorrow. This delusion of tomorrow has kept me sane, I think. That anything can happen, that everything will become easier or better, and that all my dreams will come true eventually. No need to worry about today. Well, there are 2 issues. Ferguson and all the other racially charged incidents throughout the year have essentially reminded us that we're still dealing with institutionalized racism like it was the 1870s. And secondly, the angry response by men to women who admit that they never really feel safe in public. The catcalling, not all men hashtag response. Both of these issues show that Western culture is backwards and still has a long way to go before valuing justice, equality, and respect. There were definitely a lot of moments this year that I would have wanted to share with my dad. So I miss him. Miss him a lot. There's still a lot of growing to do, I'm sure. But if there's one thing I learned, that if you're feeling overwhelmed and you can't change your circumstances right away, find your peace, find your quiet wherever you can, whenever you can. Even if it's just a drive out to Pitt Lake to watch the sunrise. So with that, I say goodbye to 2014 and hello to a new year. And although I'm only halfway through my little project right now, for you watching, you're just 1 week away before the end. So good night.